Okay, I got the whole video process going tonight because somebody requested a read from me, and I can remember someone in the response to one of the reads I did a while back asking me about how I found my tarot deck, and obviously what happens with these things is you're not supposed to find your tarot deck. Your tarot deck is supposed to find you, or at least maybe that's being too. I don't know. I guess what really meant is you're supposed to find a deck that speaks to you. Is probably more accurate. And okay, since someone had brought this up and asked, I thought, well, this might be a good discussion topic for anybody with tarot. And I've posted this, but I think I'd actually tell the story now. There is this, and I knew I wanted to work with tarot. What got me interested in wanting to have a tarot deck was that I had an experience, and all my life I've been putting any element of psychic ability in my life on the back burner. I knew it was there. I've had various experiences which showed me that it's possible, and I kind of figured that well, depending on who you listen to, there's certain psychics. I think what's her name, Colette Reed or something like that. She talks about how different people are born with different gifts. Just like some people are better at one sport. Someone who's 6 foot tall might be better at basketball than someone who's 4 foot tall. I don't know if I believe that or not. So I really don't know that if I could consider myself gifted. I don't even think I'm that good at tarot at this point compared to some. But the point is, I didn't know if everybody had these abilities, or if I had something that there was something about me that made me more inclined to be able to do this. But I know I didn't want any part of it, and so what ends up happening is I meet somebody, we do this weird meditation thing, and meet someone online. We did this weird meditation thing that she suggested, and long story short, I wanted to learn to develop my psychic abilities so that I can be better protected next time I encounter someone who still to this day I have no clue what the hell was going on with this person. But that's another story. So I decided that that's why I was, that was what got me involved with tarot. That is when I said, well, I'm going to have to do something. Tarot appeals to me. I think it appeals to me because there's an intellectual aspect to it, because it does play off of a Jungian aspect of archetypes of the mind. There's a psychological aspect to it, so it's real easy to say to people who aren't quite accepting of it that, well, there's a psychological reason these things work. So that was one of the reasons that I liked it. Now, do I believe it's all psychology? I think there's other things that go on. But I had this friend at the time. She's an ex-Wiccan, and if you've followed my post, you know that I've got some issues with Wiccans, and since she was an ex-Wiccan, we had a lot in common about our point of view on Wicca and on tarot and a lot of other things. She, just to give you a quick point of reference, she said that she was standing there at one time at her altar with her, what's it called, a dakra or something, named the little knife, and the little candles was lit, and the incense and the wine and the chalice, and she was doing her incantation, and she just looked at it all and said to herself, shit, I could have stayed Catholic. What's the difference? They're just, well. So she and I, had a lot of similar points of view about Wicca, and so we go to the store, and she's going to help me out, and she's going to show me. She was really stoked on the Robin Wood deck, and she showed that to me. But of course, she knew enough to say that I should go with what I resonate with. And so I'm looking at all the Rider-Waite, totally convinced that I'm going to, because I'm in the tradition too. I think tradition is very important. I think that what's great about traditional values is if they're still around, then that means they've stood the test of time. So I was dead set on finding some version of the Rider-Waite. I found a playing card size version of it. I found various the illuminated Rider-Waite I was looking at, and that sounded kind of neat. But you know, and I knew I didn't want to. I gotta watch the swearing. I didn't want a GD vampire deck. That was for sure. You know, I saw some. You know, the elf deck I liked too, and that was kind of stylized. But I didn't want. I wanted something I could learn on, and something that I not only could I learn on it, that was, you know, still traditional. And as I'm thinking, well, maybe there's something else that's not a Rider-Waite, but is similar enough that would be easy to learn with. And as I'm doing that and putting some of the Rider-Waite cards back, this box fell off. It literally, you know, I like to say it literally jumped off the shelf at me, but truth was I was just being clumsy. And it fell, and I went to catch it, and I looked at the image on the front of it, and it instantly fell in love. It is the Caselli deck. Caselli is the name of the artist who did the images. It came with a book, so it was perfect to learn with. And the images were very similar to the Rider-Waite, but they just seemed more pastoral. They seemed more bright. They seemed less like, because a lot of the older decks have these, you know, I say they're iconic, and I don't mean that I mean that in a visual text of the term iconic, that the graphics of them are that they're an icon to symbolize something. Whereas the Caselli deck, a lot of the cards look like they were a scene, you know, something that you might, you know, come out of the clearing of a woods and happen upon. So I just instantly fell in love. I instantly resonated with it, and that's really how it should be when you find your first deck, I think. And so, like I say, I got it, and I started studying the book and doing reads. And at one point I said I'd never do reads for anyone else, it's just for my own growth. Now I'm doing reads for other people. And I keep getting sucked into it. I keep trying to want to get away from it. And I keep getting drawn back into it. And now I'm even looking at Phoenix cards and getting drawn into some other things. At any rate, that's my story about my first deck. And you know, I don't know if anybody else has ever mentioned this. I felt it was a turning point. People say that you really shouldn't charge for a read until you've done 100 reads, or there's something about the 100 read mark. And I think it would be kind of anal to count every read you've done. But the point that I kind of got proud of was when my cards started to bleed. Now, when I say bleed, I don't mean, you know, it's not like Nightmare on Elm Street or anything like that. Let me get my deck quick. Anyways, okay, here it is. Got a lot of junk sitting back there. What I mean is, when you have a brand new deck, the cards are perfectly clean. But after you use them enough, the edges get frayed. And so what ends up happening is the coloring from the back bleeds over to the front. I don't know if you can see this on here very well or not. But so the edges get this little crimson. It's probably not showing that. Let me see if I can find one that shows it a little better. But here you can see the little spots on the edge where the color is bled through from the back. When that started happening, the feel of the cards changed, and I could tell I was getting comfortable with that deck. I'm still breaking in my Aquarian deck, but that's also something that I think that a new reader can look forward to. If you got a brand spanking new deck and you are using it enough that the color starts to bleed through and it no longer looks new, it looks a little bit lived in, I think that's kind of a fun point to cross. So I don't remember who it was who asked about this, but that's my story. Hopefully I didn't diverge off into too many tangents, because I have a tendency when I tell a story to, to just, want to give you every bit of background on every piece of information. And I dated the girl that I was telling you about that picked the deck out, and that totally blew up in my face too. I gotta stop dating witches and ex-witches. Anyways, that's my story, and hopefully you'll have one to tell too, so anyone who wants to talk about how they found their first deck, by all means, post.